So you ever want to make your cosplay armor or Iron Man suit look like it's been through war? Well, let's change that. Hello everyone, my name is Kira Creates, if you haven't figured that out already, and today I have a knife in my hand, and let's change that before I hurt myself. Yeet. So today, without knives in our hands, we're going to be talking about how to battle damage your cosplay armor or Iron Man suit, whatever it may be. So I'm recording this a week after C2E2 where I debuted it fully battle damage. That was pretty cool. I got to hang out with a lot of really cool creators I've been following since the beginning of like this whole Iron Man thing. So anyway, I've survived the car crash coming home, so now we're going to be talking about battle damage, like my car got battle damaged while I was coming home from Chicago. So I had to learn some new techniques here, do a couple things, improvise on a couple things, and just there's a lot going on here. Well, a few things, whatever. It's actually much more simple than you may think it is. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you the entire beginning to end process of how to battle damage your entire cosplay armor or suit, how I did it, some things that I wish I would have known before doing this, and some things that I can definitely improve upon to make this look even better. Because I got to see Squire Cosplay's Mark 45 in person at C2 after he did a bunch of airbrushing to it with his battle damage, and I don't know why I even try, man. I just need to give up at this point. But yeah, we'll be discussing a lot of that stuff at the end of the video, but for right now, if you aren't already subscribed, make sure you do that if you're into this type of videos, like for cosplay tutorials, reviews, like a bunch of other stuff, and just whatever comes in the future, maybe some variety content. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the bell notification to ensure that you're notified of every time I upload, whether it's another Iron Man video, whether it's a cosplay review, some goofy thing that I decide to make at 3 a.m., whatever. Just make sure you subscribe and do that, because like what, more than 90% of you guys that watch my stuff aren't subscribed, so like that's kind of crazy. So let's go ahead and change that. But yeah, with that out of the way, let me just discuss the first part of what I did. So I have once again, because I am extremely dumb and ADHD brain, I lost the footage of me starting the battle damage. Luckily, it was a very simple process that anyone can figure out. I'm just really upset at myself that I deleted the footage by accident, because it would have been a really funny transition. As soon as I got home from KatsuCon in 2025, which is like a couple months ago from me recording this, I immediately took the tote out of my car and I just started throwing my parts across my driveway. That's literally how I started this process. I just took my parts out, toss them across my driveway, but softly to make sure I didn't break anything for real. And then after that, I was just like scuffing and dragging my parts across my driveway. I'll have a video clip of me demonstrating the process here with just a regular part that I have on hand, because I want to show you guys this process, because this is an easy way to get a good idea of how you want to battle damage your stuff and get a good starting point, so that way you don't have to do every single thing by hand. But that's how I started the battle damage process. It's very simple. But one more thing before we get into the actual meat of this process, I just want to let you guys know something very exciting. So I am now officially partnered with Crashworks. They are the guys who help make these helmets motorized, so that way you can just do this with ease and not have to deal with a whole bunch of coding problems, a whole lot of electronics and stuff like that. You still gotta do electronics, just some basic soldering, and then everything's plug and play. I have been using their boards for the past couple of years in my Iron Man suits, and they have worked without fail. They're just incredible stuff and just have really progressed Iron Man cosplay to a whole nother level, so that way anyone can get into this. So if you want your own Crashworks board, I actually have a 5% off discount code if you go to their eBay and purchase a board from them. So make sure to use code KK5 for 5% off your entire order with Crashworks on eBay, so that way creators like you can have a fully motorized Iron Man helmet and step up your Iron Man helmet build or Iron Man suit build to the next level. So huge thank you to Crashworks for partnering with me and just working with me through this entire whole thing. So make sure you go check out their stuff and go buy yourself an Alicia board at 5% off. But now that we talked about all that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this whole battle damage process after I scuffed up all my parts on my driveway. Okay, so I dragged all my parts through my driveway, so now it's time to actually start doing some creative stuff. that, I mean, all this is creative work. But yeah, so first thing I'm gonna start working on here is creating some gashes in the suit, and I'm gonna start off by showing you how to do it on my helmet. So my plan here, I'm actually gonna be using some reference photos. So here I have a reference photo of the Mark 42 from the ending battle of Iron Man 3, where it has like the gash on it. Oh yeah, that's right, I have focus on. But yeah, you can see there's a gash going down the helmet through the eye, and it's going through like, it's like starting at this line here, and then it's going through here, it goes through the corner of the eye, and then ends like here. So I'm gonna use that as a baseline. Now I'm actually gonna be kind of doing my own thing with this, but I'm just using reference photos. It's, again, a baseline to get it started, and then once I actually have the thing on there, then I can take some creative liberties and start working from there. So I have my soldering iron here. So I'm using a wide flat tip for this, just so that way it covers a decent amount of area and it's able to dig in very easily. So I'm basically gonna be starting, let me get my reference photo back up here. And like I said, it's gonna be hard with the camera here in the way. All right, so I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna drag the soldering iron down. Now it's very important that I don't accidentally do this too deep, because then you'll be melting through your print, which isn't the end of the world. Usually you can fix it by melting more plastic on the back side of it to cover up the hole, but you want to try and avoid it if you can and completely wreck your print, which usually doesn't happen. It's usually fixable, but oh god, I'm hesitating to do this. But it looks like the gash starts like towards here. So I'm gonna be starting it here and then melt into the print here. And then I want to try and make it widen as it goes down here. So try and make it a bit wider here, get more of the tip stuck in here, and then drag it down. Now it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't do exactly right, because it is battle damage. So like you can easily get away with some stuff, but just try to be as precise as you can and have a game plan on how you want to do things. But I'm just trying to go very slow here for the initial stage here, because I'm actually cutting the thing here. And you can see I actually have to go kind of slow here because of how thin the walls of this print are, because it's already heating up the plastic and making it like kind of warp and dent in and like kind of wreck on doing this, because you can see there's a burn mark on the paint instead of where it's supposed to melt through. So I have to do this very slowly and very carefully on this first initial pass. Because again, I am just creating the gash area, and I'm going to go in with the soldering iron a bit later to kind of modify it, tweak it a little bit, and make it how I want it. I'm going to push up in the eye hole because I don't want to like accidentally cover my eye here. I'm gonna do a little bit on this edge here, the eye. So this is all about feel, because I'm putting light pressure on the faceplate here, and then I'm just kind of watching the soldering iron dig down. I'm kind of feeling how it is and the resistance as well. I'm using all that to gauge my divot here. Well, like, man, I can't words today, but you know what I mean. But like, I'm trying to like do it to gauge how deep this is. So again, I don't cut through the print, and it's better to do it again along the surface first, and then like kind of play around with it a little after. So now I'm actually going to take the edge of this. I'm going to sculpt the ending of this because I want it to kind of taper down here when it ends, so I don't want it to be as thick to make it feel more natural. So I'm just gonna play with that, play with that. Then like go to angle here, like kind of like make it as sharp as I can here. And then I think I have the basic crack done. There. Now let me take a look at that from the front side. Oh yeah. That is definitely a gash. That's really cool, actually. I really like it. So now that I have my basic gash, I can go back into here, and then I can make it a little bit deeper since now I have like it actually formed. So I'm just gonna go along these edges here because this side is a bit deeper than this side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just kind of flip the edge around where the longer edge is this way, and just kind of guide it in here a bit. Just make the deepness about even. I also want to try and get rid of the paint in there too. Melt that down. I'm actually not too worried about the paint, I should say, because I'm just gonna go back into this. I'm gonna color this all silver, which I'm getting a little ahead of myself there, but just so you know, this is not gonna be the final look of everything. But yeah, I think I'm about satisfied actually with this crack. So yeah, I'm actually looking at this. I'm debating if I should put another one on this side, but like make it smaller and more towards like the middle of the eye or like the other edge. So that's basically a gist of how I make these gouges and cracks in like the armor and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a time lapse of me doing that to all the armor pieces I want to do. Then once I have everything done, I'll go over quickly, well, why I chose to put gouges where I did, and then we'll move to the next step of this process.
Installation. Let's play.
All right, so I pretty much added all the gouges and holes I wanted to add with my soldering iron. Now the helmet, I'm very happy with how that turned out. There's some stuff that we need to clean up, like some stuff that's like stringing out like this, and some overlapping material like over here, that's overlapping on top of the paint. So what I want to do to help clean up these edges is use my nipping tool that I got with my printers. Now you can buy these on Amazon if you don't have these or whatever, but these nipping tools, nippers, whatever you want to call it, cutty, thingy, mabobbers, these come in real handy for this kind of stuff and just like a whole bunch of different uses. So what I'm basically gonna do with this guy, I'm just gonna go ahead and go around here and just cut things, just basically like that. Now for the overlap stuff, I'm gonna take a flat side here because these guys have a flat side, and I'm just gonna go ahead and lay it as flush as I can here. And I wanna like very, very carefully take it and just like try and cut the material off or pull the material off, whatever I can do, because I don't want to damage the paint too much. Now it's getting battle damage, so again, doesn't really matter too much, but I'd rather not do unnecessary paint damage that would make this thing look all kinds of wonky. Gonna go ahead, be careful. As you can see, I got the overlap off, and that reveals some nice paint underneath. So I'm just gonna cut some of this excess here, and then cut this excess, and then there's a little more stringing down here. I think you guys get the point of what I'm doing here. Just go around the edges, cut whatever needs to be cut, and the more time you take with this, the better your holes are gonna look. That's what she said. So I'm just gonna go ahead, do this to all the holes, all the gouges, stuff like that with excess material coming out of the sides, and just go ahead, time lapse for that, and then we'll go to the next step. Hello, jump scare. So next step is going to be painting on some silver and some of the deeper scratches and gouges here. So I basically do this to simulate that like it looks like it's scratched or melted through actual metal, so that way it looks like it's metal underneath the paint. So basically where I'm going to be doing all of this is I'm going to be doing all of this in all these deep gouges I put on the faceplate and elsewhere, the scratches, which you can't see right now on the abs. This nice little hole here around the edges of that, the edges of the hole in the bicep, and just some deeper scratches throughout the suit here. Like I'm gonna be putting it on the pauldrons here where like you see the black there on the primer, right here. Just a bunch of like deeper scratch areas I'm showing you here. Now the great thing of my choice in filament color and the choice of my base coat color on the reds. So the filament that I use on this suit is actually a light gray. The filler primer, light gray. Do you see what I'm getting at here? So because the color of my filament and my primer are light gray, which is somewhat similar to silver, just not metallic, I'm able to get away with accidentally missing some spots or getting a little lazy and not getting every single nook and cranny, because once I have enough silver on here, all the gray spots are honestly just gonna blend in, no one's gonna notice, and it'll basically all look the same once it gets done. Because I'm sure if you see like any primer spots and you try to look at the silver and you just look at it as a whole, you are not going to notice. Nobody's gonna notice at cons. So like, it'll just look cool. That's all that matters. But make sure that you're putting the silver or whatever metal undercoat you want to try and simulate. Make sure you put this color in where you got all your deeps. Make sure you put the color on all your deep scratches just to really sell the look. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how I do this right now. Alright, so first off we have our acrylic paint here. This is some silver that I picked up at Ace Hardware. Any type of silver acrylic paint or like any type of like brushing silver paint or whatever will work. Model paint, whatever. You don't have to be picky. This is just really cheap stuff and you get a good amount of it for only like $1 or $2. So it's like, I'm gonna choose that over model paint because model paint's usually more expensive for a lot less. So this is plaid home front metallic finish. I just got this at Ace. I'm going to show you another company that I really like that you can get easily on Amazon that I'm going to be showing you later on in the video. And then all you need to really apply this is just a small like thin tipped paintbrush. So this is basically just to help you have control over everything, so that way you're not like getting a bunch of silver splotches, whatever. But acrylic paint's really easy to clean up. You just gotta wipe it off and then boom, it's almost like it never happened. So makes life easy. Well, let's crack this guy open. Don't need the cap. I'm just gonna dip the tip in that bottle there and boom, there we go. Now I'm gonna show you how I apply it on the big scratch here and then a little bit on one of the smaller ones. So for this guy, I can just like brush over this. I don't really need to be too precise at all since this is a very big scratch, and I don't need to worry about like accidentally putting too much in here, because this paint, even if you pile it on by accident a little too much, it doesn't really crack or like cause any big issues. The only annoyance might be if it runs or whatever, or if you have too much, it might get places you don't want it to get to. So definitely keep that in mind. But I'm just gonna go ahead and coat the inside of this with the silver. This is already looking a lot nicer too. Yeah, just get the middle part like that, go willy-nilly on it. Doesn't really matter too much. And I'm just gonna show you after I get this one applied here. There we go. Once that dries, it should form fit to all the little crevices inside the crack and everything like that a lot better. So now I'm gonna show you how to be really careful with like one of the small ones, like right over here. Let's turn the helmet. There we go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do one of these skinny ones here. So basically I wanna be very light on the tip to maintain control, and so that way I can try and be as precise with my paint application as humanly possible here. Even though like I could easily wipe away if I accidentally put too much, it's extra hassle that I don't want to deal with, so I want to try and make it as precise as I can. So just do little dabs here and there, little brush strokes, and only apply a little bit to the tip of your brush here, so that way you're doing it little by little and you're not accidentally causing any paint runs or bleeds or just like getting paint in places you don't want to get it. Yeah, just do light little dabs there. Just get it enough in there where it's coating the surface. And that's pretty much the gist of that. You just got to take your time, have patience, and the more you take your time with this, the better that your final result will end up looking, and I guarantee you that. So if you got time to just kind of like be very intricate with it, I highly suggest taking that time. Watch a video, maybe watch one of my videos in the background, listen to some music, whatever, to try and pass the time a little bit while you're doing this, because this is actually pretty nice and therapeutic, and you can see it in real time come out very nicely. So this is honestly my favorite part about damaging it, is just making everything silver, because it's very therapeutic for me. Go ahead, keep dabbing your paint in there. Like I said, be very light on the very thin cracks and the small cracks, and you can pretty much dab a healthy glob in the bigger ones. Like this guy, for example, is pretty thick, so this guy can take a nice glob pretty easily without messing up everything. Now let's go to the edges here and just do tiny little dabs here to fill in the edges there. There we go. I think that's pretty much a gist of why I really need to tell you to do all this. See, it's turning out pretty well already. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, do a time lapse of me doing all the silver painting. And so since I have the helmet here, I might as well show you another thing I'm gonna be doing with the silver paint. Now, it doesn't really do much. The undercoat of all the red sections of the suit, including the helmet, is silver. So there's not a whole lot I really need to do with this, but there is couple sections here I could do this. So what I'm going to end up doing is going around some of the edges, like the widow's peak here, turn this around, go around the edges of the ear here, some of the other edges like here, a few other places. And I'm basically going to dab a little bit of silver along those edges to simulate the effect of like the edges being scratched up or whatever, because those are usually the first places that start getting scratched up. So let's show you, I'm going to do a little bit on the widow's peak here and like a couple of the existing marks here. So I'm gonna do this. This is exactly what I did to the Mark 40, and I was gonna make a video dedicated to this on the Mark 40, but then I realized I'm battle damaging the Mark 42. I might as well just show it here. But yeah, just put little dabs around the edges of some stuff, and I want to kind of, let's turn this around to the edge of the helmet here, and I'm just gonna put some silver in this gouge here, and this gouge here. Now it helps to use sandpaper or like the dragging aspects to get those chips already in there, so it makes this process easier. But if you don't have a chip in here, that's okay. You don't really need to, because you could just put this on the surface and it does the effect just well enough. So I just do a couple here, and then maybe like a random longer chip here. And then basically, as you can see, that gets the effect done just as well. So that's pretty much the whole gist of how I do the silver. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a time lapse of me doing all the silver here, and then get back to you to the next step. All right, for this next step, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to add some scratches to your paint job. So all I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be taking the 60 grit sandpaper to all the areas I couldn't get while dragging it across my driveway, because some of these parts are a lot more rounded than flat. So you could see the chest right here. That is a lot more scuffed up because my driveway was actually able to hit that, and all the gravel and stuff got into it and left all these scratch marks. But when you look down at my abs here, you can see there's like a little bit of scratching down here where the driveway was able to get it. But towards the middle of the abs here, there is nothing because of how rounded and everything this is. And my driveway is very flat, so I couldn't really do much. So what I'm going to be doing, 60 grit sandpaper, going over everything, just doing that. Basically, as you can see, it's already starting to put some scratches. Just make sure it's all going in like a direction that you want it to. I just had a little sideways here, but I want the majority of these guys going downwards because I want a lot of like similar direction here, but I also want to add some variation here. This just really sell the look, and it just looks better in general when you just look at it. So not really looking at anything too crazy here, but I'm going to add deeper scratches later. But yeah, just get some basic scuffs going through here because it's a battle damage. It's going to look like crap. It's going to look like it's gone through war. So just absolutely scratch the absolute crap out of this thing. And if I want to make a deeper scratch, say like on one of these metallic silver pieces over here, let me just focus in over here. So if I want to make a deeper scratch, I'm going to take the edge of my sandpaper and I'm just going to say really put pressure here and just take it down and just go over it a couple times. Oh yeah, that is a deep scratch there. And you see this black undercoat here where the metallic silver is. So basically I'm going to be taking my silver paint and going over all the black parts that have the black undercoat and make them metallic just to make it look like this thing is on actual metal. Kind of like how the scratches here have the silver paint in there. So I'm going to do the same thing for those scratches, just to really help, again, sell the look. And I'm just going to go over every single part with this. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so now that we got pretty much all my silver painting done, well, most of it, I might go back and do a couple things, we'll see later. So I'm now ready to do some black washing. Now I'll admit, I've never black washed something before. I just looked up some video tutorials on how to mix it up. I'm probably going to look at some stuff to how to apply it, but I think I'm just going to brush it on. We'll see. But anyway, we are going to make our black wash. Now everything I've seen, a lot of people have their own ways of doing it. So I think I'm just going to go with one of the other right ways to do it because there's a billion ways to do this and not a single one of them is really wrong. The right way to do it is whatever gets you the result you want. So it doesn't really matter too much. So I'm going pretty basic. I got a G Fuel cup here, which I don't drink G Fuel anymore because Gamer Subs is a new cool thing around. Well, it's not really new, but it's cool. No longer sponsored, by the way. We'll see if that changes in the future. I was the one who ended the contract. But yeah, I just thought I'd use this because when I have two of these PewDiePie cups laying around, and so I was like, yeah, I'll use it. And it's got a nice little mixer thing here for a shaker. I think this will work very well for mixing everything very thoroughly. And of course I have the cap here to shake it around. But yeah, I also have this Folks Art Matte Noir Black. I think it's Noir, no, it's pure black. So this only cost me $1 on Amazon. So like, this is fantastic. I've used Folks Art, which I used to make the shoes blue on the Mark 40. Maybe I'll show a picture somewhere. But yeah, this stuff works really well. And I hope that it makes some good results for this black wash because it's more of a matte color. So I'm really hoping when it dries, it leaves kind of like a matte finish because I think it'll really help sell the dirty look and compare very well with the glossy finish on the Mark 42. So hopefully it'll look really nice. The second ingredient here is just some basic water. A lot of people say use distilled or I think like ionized water or something like that. I don't know, some weird stuff. But I'm just going to use basic purified drinking water. It's cheap and you can get this anywhere. Yeah, I'm just going to use this guy, and then the final ingredient, which I believe is just going to help with the flow of it, is I'm going to use a little bit of some dishwasher soap. I don't think it really matters what you use as long as it's dishwashing liquid. I've seen people use like other proprietary stuff, but this is basic household stuff, so I don't see a point of using anything else. And I see a lot of people use a lot of dishwashing soap. I don't know why, because this stuff is supposed to be very concentrated, so you're not supposed to really need a whole lot. So we'll see. I'll add a few drops, even though I think they'll be excessive, but we'll see. As long as it works, I don't care. But yeah, first thing I'm going to do is add some water to the cup. Now, it doesn't really matter how much you really add. I've seen a lot of people use like little squirt bottles, but I'm going to be going throughout most of the suit here, so it's better to have more than less because I could probably use this in another project. Yeah, I'm just going to fill that about halfway because I don't think I need that much. And then I'm going to add a few drops of soap here, just like that. I'm going to go ahead, shake it around a little bit, and this is going to foam up. So let's go ahead, make sure that's sealed, and then just shake it up here. Now it's going to get pretty foamy because now this is just soapy water. So shake that around a little bit, get it a little bit mixed up before I add the paint. Oh man, yeah, that is soapy. And then last thing I'm going to add is of course the paint. So I don't think it's sealed, nope. So I'm just going to dump a decent amount in here. Now I might have to play around with adjusting how much paint I put into it because I don't want it to be too viscous. I also don't want it to be too thick. And I also want to leave a nice decent amount of black on there when it dries, but not too much to where like it just cakes it and you don't see anything through it and it looks like it's just covering something. So it's going to take a lot of tweaking. It's better to add a very conservative amount when you start up because you can always just add a little more as you go until you get the result you want. So I'm going to go ahead, use my paint. Actually, no, I have a shaker for this. What am I doing? But if you're not using a shaker cup or you don't want to do that, then you could just use like something to stir it around to mix everything thoroughly. Yeah, just make sure you're using a container that you either don't care about discarding or you don't plan to use for actual consuming purposes. So yeah, this water's already looking pretty dang black, so nothing really scientific here. It's just all about eyeballing because I can always adjust the amount of things. And then I think that's good. So I'm gonna go ahead, cover that. Ooh, black foam, that looks cool. And now, in order to test this, I'm gonna see what it looks like dried. And I saw someone in a YouTube video use a piece of paper. I'm using some paper towel here. And I'm just gonna use this to see what it looks like when it dries up, to see what it looks like. So that way I can see if I'm happy with the amount. So I'm just gonna go ahead, dip my brush. Ooh, I got some black paint on me by accident. How about that? I'm just gonna dip my brush in here, get some on the brush. And then I'm just gonna wipe it across here. So I don't know how well it's gonna focus, but you can see there, it's pretty black right now, but it might change once it's dried up. So we will see what that looks like, but it looks like it's a bit too thick on the black. So I think I'm gonna add more water to this. Yeah, I definitely think it's a little thick here because it's very, very dark now as it's been drying. Yeah, it's very dark now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add more water to water this guy down. And I don't care if the soap goes over. If anything, it might look pretty funny. Oh no. And also make sure to be very careful so that way I don't make a mess, because I just kind of spilled a little bit on myself, but that's okay. I don't really care about these clothes I'm wearing anyway. Probably better to use gloves. Use gloves when you're doing this, all right? I'm just gonna tell you this right now. Let's try this again here with the new mixture. And it's basically just gonna be a whole lot of trial and error until I get the result that I like. So let's brush that on there. Okay, it's definitely looking slightly more improved, but I still need to add more water. So yeah, you can see this mark right here is where I just applied it. It looks almost the same, but it's slightly less dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep adding water here just to see like what the mix will look like and hopefully try and achieve the result I want. So I'll get back to you once I add more water and I get to the final result. Okay, so after some experimenting here, I'm glad I turned off the camera or else this clip would have gone forever. But I'm gonna let the bubbles settle down, so I'm gonna do something after this. But I think I'm fairly satisfied with the result here. So I ended up just testing it on parts because I noticed that it was actually showing up lighter on parts than it was on paper. So I just went ahead and I dumped a bunch more paint into there actually after I added more water because it was getting too diluted. And then it was just like not showing up on the paint job on the thing. So I was just like, I'm just gonna dump more paint. And I think I'm getting pretty happy with the result here. I don't know how well it shows up. Yeah, you can definitely see. The top part here is the current result with this current mixture that I have. So it's getting pretty dark here. As you can see, those spots are actually just bubbles. I think I might actually add even more paint to this and then I'm gonna call it. But after I do that, I'm gonna let these bubbles settle down and I'm gonna work on actually heat forming a couple of the parts. So yeah, I'm just gonna finalize a mixture here. Like I said, it's always good to experiment with your mixture and just keep on trying until you get the result that you want, which again, I'm pretty close. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, do that. And then we're actually gonna move to an intermission where I, heat up some of the parts and like warp them a little bit. So let's go ahead and move to that. All right, so now we're outside because I'm gonna be using my handy dandy heat gun here to kind of warm up the plastic just a little bit. So that way I can actually use my fingers to make like marks around here to make it look like I'm grabbing around to try and reach for the arc react. Now it's kind of inspired by what Bucky did in Civil War, but I think it would look really cool as like some finger indents to make it look like they were melting through the chest plate because, you know, the extremist soldiers, they use heat and stuff like that, so I thought it would look pretty cool. So I would start heating the inside of this, but just because like this guy is not actually attached here, I want to make sure like I heat everything uniformly and that way I don't like accidentally mess anything up. I want to do it from the front here. I don't think I'm going to really fully damage the paint because, well, one, if it does, it's battle damage. And second of all, I'm not going to heat it very much, just enough to soften the plastic a little bit, just to get some finger indents with this glove hand. So I'm going to go ahead, turn this on to the lowest setting because this is all PLA. And I'm just going to slowly move around the chest here. Not really cause any damage, just warm it up here. Just make sure you keep it moving so that way, you know, it's not staying in one spot and it warms it up too much to the point where it's just, you know, it just falls apart and then breaks and then the paint's ruined. So again, since it's PLA, it doesn't have that high of a melting point or a softening point or whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to go around here for a couple more seconds and then I think that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do it. It doesn't feel like I warmed it up enough, so I'm just going to keep going here and then we'll see what happens. All right, looks like I made some nice little finger imprints here. Now I might try and make them a little bit deeper, but honestly, that's looking pretty cool. I might actually do that for bullet holes as well. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm gonna go run another round, heat it up again, and then I'll show you what it looks like for the final look. All right, and here's the dents. This actually looks really cool. I really like it. So if you ever wanted to form your print or whatever, you could use a heat gun to do this, or just whatever you need to do, move it, whatever. Because like, results speak for themselves. Like, my lord, and it didn't even really damage the paint, like, at all. There's not a single thing of paint that, yeah, that looks sweet. I like it. All right, everybody, and that's pretty much my battle damage process. Now, I'm sure you guys want to see the whole armor showcase and something at least somewhat cool. So here's a cool montage I put together, some of the clips I've gotten at C2E2. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy for a little bit, and then we'll come back talking about what I've learned and what I can do better in the future.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done.
I hope you guys enjoyed all of that. But yeah, I learned a couple things from doing this. Like, I learned how to blackwash things and make it look dirty. Now, this is not the best blackwash job that could ever be done because it's really messy or whatever, which honestly, for the Mark 42, it kind of adds to it by being super messy. But I kind of learned how blackwash is supposed to work, what it's supposed to enhance and bring out in your damage and weathering, because blackwash is a perfect way to bring out details in your grooves, get some line detail to be more pronounced, and just like show off like more of your grittier areas where like dirt is supposed to build up and stuff. I didn't quite do that as much on the armor because I was rushing and like I didn't have exactly the time to like fully do that stuff, but like blackwashing is something I definitely want to use in the future to weather my props, as well as like some brown washing, green washing, whatever, just to make my props look even more authentic. And that's honestly the main thing I learned, but I also learned that just adding little bits here and there of detail just really add up over time. Like the hexagon grates I added within the armor plates of the suit, where like everything's like cut up and broken off. Like that just adds a whole nother layer of depth and detail to the armor, as well as just like painting all of the gouges in silver so that way none of my prints are actually showing through, and that it actually looks like authentic metal, because it just like gives it that metallic effect once it's silver on the edges, showing it's like, hey, giving the illusion that this is more like actual metal underneath that paint. And learning how to use a heat gun properly so that way I could deform my parts in order to make it look like I have like some dents and some bullet holes. Just really, again, just accumulates to add just so much nice detail to this, because I added like these finger dents for Extremis soldiers, and I really like how it turned out, and it comes out a lot better in photos than it does like just looking at it. And the bullet holes, they look really cool. I like how I made the indents with the heat gun, and then I went in with the soldering iron and then just soldered them out to make them look like the bullets kind of like pierced through the metal a little bit and made it look a little messy, but it didn't quite go through. It's just like that type of stuff, and the scratches all over it, and going into all the paint scuffs and stuff with the silver to show again that there might be metal underneath that paint. It just all adds up to just add to this like super high level of detail that I'm super happy with. And of course, again, there's a ton I would love to improve with this. Like some of my scuffs could be better. My Blackwash job could be better if I airbrush everything, but I hand brushed it all. But it came out really, really nice. I'm very happy with the end result, and it looks absolutely sick in pictures. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the Mark 42. This is the final form of this suit. So I don't know if this is gonna be my second to last Iron Man video coming out. I don't know my upload schedule yet for everything. This might be coming up before my final Mark 40 video. And anyway, whatever. So like I said, this is the final form of the Mark 42. I'm not doing anything else to this thing other than fixing it in between cons, just so that way it's functional. I'm very happy with how this turned out, because like the Mark 42 is meant to be all screwed up. This is probably the most damaged armor in the MCU next to the Mark 85 at the end of Endgame. But yeah, like I said, my Iron Man stuff is coming to an end. I have a really big video for my final Iron Man video that I'm working on, that I worked with a bunch of people on. I'm trying to go all out on, so make sure you guys are subscribed and notified for that, because it's more of a heartfelt video rather than the technical side of things, because it's been a journey making these suits, both like as a maker and as a person personally, because I went over it a little bit in the first Mark 42 video. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, again, subscribe if you enjoy this stuff. If you want to see more content like all my cosplay pictures, make sure to go to my Instagram, Kira Creates Cosplay, which is down in my description, as well as my other social medias like TikTok and Patreon if you want to support the channel directly by giving me money, because this stuff's expensive. And make sure to check out my sponsor links down below to help support the channel as well, like that Crashworks one that I talked about. They'll link you to their eBay page, so that way you can get a Crashworks board to motorize an Iron Man helmet and get 5% off on that. So just make sure you do that stuff and check out everything else down there. I've got to work with a lot of cool companies, and I vouch for every single one of their products. So go ahead, check them out. And until next time, where I go ahead and go to your house and I battle damage your car as well in a hit and run, and I will see you guys later. Go touch grass.